Hey, yeah, it is Spiritual Direction and Soul Care Sunday Live. So glad that you can be with us on the broadcast or on the replay every Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And we are doing our thing this summer. We're doing 12 weeks, and this is week 3 as we go through forgiveness, the blueprint for living. And we are super excited about this third part of this journey. It is good stuff. And we are excited. Like I said, it's week 3 of the 12-week journey into forgiveness. And we're also offering a midweek group every other week for deeper discussion and support while we are all doing this work of forgiveness. So the next deeper discussion is Wednesday, June 23 at 7 p.m. That's Wednesday, June 23 at 7 p.m. on Zoom. We'll go over sections 3 and 4. You can check out the deeper discussion event on the Facebook page to find the Zoom link. Last Wednesday was our first one where we talked about sections 1 and 2, weeks 1 and 2, and it was awesome. It was truly awesome. One person even said it was the best 90 minutes of their week. So don't miss the next one, June 23. Don't want you to miss it. Come hang out. Even if you're not working with the workbook, just come and be part of the conversation, because we'll really do a deep dive there and go over some of the material as well there. So, and like I said, don't forget that on the Facebook page, there is a forgiveness workbook PDF that you can download or work with. So you can go to the page, download the workbook, and then join us Wednesday, June 23rd, 7 p.m. on Zoom. As always, if you're watching today on YouTube, come over and join our Facebook group where other content and resources are available, and you can connect with the over 500 people who are part of this community. Also, go check out our website, spiritualdirectionandsoulcare.com. There's lots of good stuff there, and you can learn more about our soul care program and all the other good things that we are starting to build through Spiritual Direction Soul Care program. You can sign up for that. You can donate to the work to support what we're doing as we're helping people get an imagination for transformation, live lives of peace and joy, and learn insanely practical tools for the spiritual journey. So let's prepare the soil of our hearts and minds, as we always do, to the work of the Spirit together. And we do this with our most basic spiritual practices: mindful breath and stillness, coming to stillness in centering prayer. And this is where we rest in the presence of God, who is always with us and always already at work within us and through us. And so we breathe. We breathe again. We let our shoulders drop. We let the Spirit uncoil you. And we invite the Spirit to guide us as this process unfolds. So let us come to stillness and let us breathe. We're moving quickly into this space of rest, letting our week drop away. We're letting all the things that we are anticipating in the coming week to just be laid aside for a moment. We move in breath and stillness. Last week, I showed you a hand position where you take your right hand over your left hand and you clasp them together and you just simply let them hang. If that was helpful to you, to help you feel centered and grounded, to have a sense of physical weight going downwards as you sit tall and straight, you can enter into that to help you ground in this moment. I'm doing it and I'm already feeling that sense of elevation that I share about, that I get. There's this, as my body feels as if it's being drawn downwards, I get that elevating, rising sensation around my shoulders and neck and head. As we ground ourselves and come to stillness, our hearts and minds are elevated. So whatever works for you, however you want to sit or hold yourself, do that. But I invite you to enter into kind awareness of yourself, your sensations, as we breathe. If your mind wanders, come back to this present moment, to a word or a physical sensation that you will focus on. Slow, deep breaths in and out. A moment of stillness. A moment of rest. Spirit of Jesus, you were there when the disciples asked Jesus to teach them to pray. And so today we take up the same request. Teach us to pray today, even one small step into prayer today, to be open, to give our consent to you and your presence. Give us strength, wisdom, and courage to begin our entrance into the prayer of forgiveness, this tool that we will be learning over these next few weeks. Help us be curious about this tool for our spiritual lives. And keep us mindful that forgiveness is a journey so that we might be compassionate with ourselves. In the name of love, in the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen. So, how do you feel? How do you feel? It's good to be together. I see some more of you have joined us. Welcome. If you're watching on the Facebook Live or on YouTube, we're so glad that you are with us. So glad that you could join us as we are giving ourselves the gift of stillness and centering down into intentional, mindful breath to connect ourselves with ourselves, to prepare ourselves to be able to talk about ourselves, and to be open to the divine that is all around us and with us and full of love for us, the spirit that is our partner and guide, who helps illuminate our minds and understanding of ourselves, who loves us deeply and is always with us and always working. So it's great to be together as we dive into week 3 here of our 12-week journey. And this session is all about getting introduced to what is called the prayer of forgiveness. It's a focused, centering prayer practice developed by a woman named Mary Mrozowski. And Mary was this spiritual teacher who believed, rightly, I believe, that anything could be prayer so long as we are giving our consent to meet God in it, to meet the divine in whatever action we are doing. And so this prayer tool we're going to learn about today is what's called a contemplative approach to forgiveness that invites us to open ourselves to the being relying on the guidance and intervention of the Holy Spirit of God. So why do I want us to learn this kind of a tool? And why is this kind of like the center main tool that I'm teaching as we go through this and passing along to you. And we'll look at it this week, and we'll look at it a little more closely, the other 2 sections of it. It's like a 3-section prayer. And we'll be looking at other sections of it in subsequent weeks. But why do I want you to learn about this? And let me refresh this screen really quick that I'm looking at, just so I can make sure that, what's it called? Comments I can see the comments here. So I have a little, there we go. Okay, I see here. All right, Diane's here. And Judy says, I can't tune in today, but please keep me and family in prayers and hearts. We will, Judy. We will do that. Good. So comments are live on Facebook. So why do I want you to learn this kind of a tool, this kind of enhancement of that practice that we're doing at the very beginning of every one of our Sunday lives? Well, there's 2 things. First, I want you to have a tool, an insanely practical tool that can teach you over time as you cooperate with it and use it. It will teach you to unlearn our addiction to thinking our way out of stuff, or trying to inform ourselves into transformation. We so often, you've heard me probably talk about this before, we try to inform ourselves into transformation. Now, is it important in our spiritual journey and in our care and in our development to get better information? Yes. Is it better to help us get a better inputs and things? Yes. But there's also this part of us that, like you've heard me say, that like we treat the different phases of our development in our spiritual life as some sort of like destination or thing that we produce, and we can't inform ourselves into transformation, right? Second, part of this is why I say this is because we really don't know how to forgive, right? We really don't know how to forgive, and that's why it's so hard so often to forgive, and that's why you're doing this journey, because we're all still learning how to forgive, because every scenario that comes up is a new way to forgive. So this tool called the forgiveness prayer helps us to practice a continual reliance on the Spirit within you. This tool over time, I believe, helps us develop a healthier way to process our thoughts and feelings and beliefs about our pain and about our experiences. So it helps us rebuild what I call our perceptual framework, right? Our perceptual framework. Experiences affect our perceptions, and the perceptions become beliefs, and beliefs then determine how and what we see. There's a writer who says, it's impossible to travel through life and not collect emotional experiential souvenirs. They say it's impossible to travel through life and not collect emotional experiential souvenirs. And the analyst and thinker Robert Bly, he calls this dynamic the long bag we drag behind us, that we put our stuff in, that eventually trips us up or weighs us down. So it's all the baggage, right? We pick up souvenirs. But I like calling them souvenirs. I like calling them souvenirs instead of baggage, because it helps reframe, it helps reframe even our wounds, not as a burden, but something about which we can be curious, something about which we can be compassionate, something about which we can take a hold of and look at and examine and come to understand and maybe even appreciate in a new kind of way. What do you think? They're souvenirs. We can't travel through life. It's impossible to travel through life and not collect some of these things, right? So think about it. What are some of your souvenirs? What are some of your souvenirs? I'm going to put it in the chat here for anybody who's watching on the replay, right? It's impossible to travel through life and not pick up some emotional souvenirs. So what are your souvenirs? Well, think about it, right? Think about it. Maybe you can share in the chat, or things are coming to mind that might be too much for you. That's okay. But think about it. And when you realize that it's impossible to go through life without picking up some of these, that's also freedom, because then you realize this is part of the journey of life. This isn't because I did something. It isn't because I deserve it. It isn't because I had it coming, or I'm a bad person and I deserve to be burdened by regret. No, they're just souvenirs of passing through life. And this is how things go, right? What are some of your souvenirs? It's an interesting question. And this is part of the reason why I think forgiveness prayer is an incredibly great tool, because it helps us slow down and open ourselves to what is there. It helps us bring out the stuff that we can't see inside us, right? We may not be able to see it, but we can, while we do the forgiveness prayer, we can listen to what is spilling out of us, what is spilling out of us. See? And here's a bonus fact. I gave you two things, but here's a bonus fact about the forgiveness prayer. I love that this tool is flexible and it can be modified for different kinds of forgiveness journeys, because every single one of us is on a very different kind of forgiveness journey. And we're going to go through multiple forgiveness journeys that are very different from each other just for ourselves alone. No two forgiveness journeys are exactly the same, even for the same person. You know, there are as many forgiveness journeys as there are people, but this tool can get used by anyone in any forgiveness journey. And that's what I love about it too. So let's dive into this first part of the forgiveness prayer. Let's dive into this first part of the forgiveness prayer. And you can find the whole thing written out in the workbook. So please go to the Facebook page and download the PDF and look at it, because it's a long guided script that you can use that I'm going to be encouraging you to familiarize yourself with over these weeks. And I invite you to try to take time to do this forgiveness prayer daily so you can learn it and familiarize yourself with its flow. But like I said, today, I just want to focus on part one, where we really zero in on stillness in our bodies. So stillness in our bodies. And so let me read the first part to you. And you can follow it along in the workbook if you want, if you have it out. So part one says to begin with a period of centering prayer, or some time in silence and solitude. You could go back to one of these live videos and just practice that silence and coming to stillness that we've been doing in the first 10 minutes of our time. You know, we do about 3 intentional minutes where then I stop talking and work through. So if you're still learning it and you're learning, your comfort level with stillness, but follow maybe one of those. Or if you have a practice of this already, go and do your practice and do it as long as you need, right? So it says, begin with this period of silence and solitude and follow that with a few more moments in silence. And while you're in this first section of silence, you're going to close your eyes, it says, and gently ground yourself in your body. And you need to scan kind of your body with your inner eye. Like I like to start from the bottom of my feet and then kind of work my way up and just focus on different parts of my body, right? And intentionally invite each part of my body to relax. That's what the script says. And then when you're done, you come to rest, focusing on your chest near your heart. And you just breathe as you focus on your heart. And you imagine your heart opening. And you visualize breathing the light of the presence of God's Spirit into your heart that is open. And you continue to just simply relax your body in that posture. That's the whole first section, right? You come to silence, you do a silencing, centering, stillness practice, and then you shift that silence into a silent scan of yourself, intentionally relaxing each part of your body, and then coming to rest at your heart, focusing on your heart, breathing as you allow your heart to open, bringing kind awareness to the light of God's presence all around and resting and communing at the level of your heart as you continue to relax your body. And what we see here in this first part of the forgiveness prayer is the importance of the silence and the body in any spiritual journey. And I've talked about this before in our Olive Branches series in January. You can go back and look at those videos about where I talk about the body as a partner, as a tool, as an instrument that we use in our spiritual journeys. And some of you may need to, when you do this prayer, some of you may need to spend just as much time in this space and allow yourself to have as much time in that space that helps you prepare for the process of forgiveness, right? As you do in the heart of the forgiveness prayer itself, you may, as you grow and take up and familiarize yourself with this tool, you may need to spend as much time in this space of stillness and scanning oneself and opening one's heart as you do going through the other parts of the forgiveness prayer. Why? Because the preparation of yourself through periods of silence and solitude and rest before God actually opens you to access and receive that presence, that divine presence that is already within you and waiting and longing for you to give your consent to the Spirit of God to lead and guide you and open yourself to these resources and that is within you, that has been given to you. So God is always with you, always present within you, but we don't usually know this at our ordinary level of awareness because we're busy, right? Like we're going through life and we're trucking along, right? Silence and centering helps us consent and become aware of God's action and presence that's always already within us. So this first part, you don't have to rush right through it. You can give as much time to this first part as you need. So if you're watching, tell me what you think. Whether you're watching right now or on the replay, put some comments in. When you think of any experiences of silence, right? How do you react, right? Do you like silence? Do you get antsy? Do you get nervous? See, do you avoid silence and stillness because you fear what might start to rise up? We all know people, maybe this is you. We all know people who stay busy so they can stay distracted because everything's right there and it's too much and they just don't want to face it. Maybe you were raised in religious environments that purposely discourage silence, right? That constantly kept your experience of faith, spirituality, religion, they kept it noisy, right? They kept overloading you with inputs, right? Not giving you space to really think about what's being given to you and what's being taught to you and what's being impressed upon you, right? Who knows? We're formed by these things, or there's things in our personalities that react to the idea of stillness and silence, right? I met a guy recently who was struggling with rehabilitation after a stroke, and his one foot wasn't working, but he wouldn't slow down. He wouldn't listen to his physical therapist who said, "Hey, you got to go slower. Your foot doesn't quite work as fast as the rest of your body, and you could fall down and get hurt." Right? And he's like, "Well, I can't stand still. I've never stood still. I only have two settings: sitting or fast. That's it. I go fast. That's how I've lived for 40 years." You know. And I was just like, "Wow, delightful guy," but he did not want to come to rest. Right? You could just sense he had a noisy interior world, right? He had a noisy interior world, and I don't know what was going on there, but he was trying to cover the noise with more noise, with his own noise, with the noise that he chose, the speed that he chose, the lack of attentiveness, and the distraction that he wanted. And I had to wonder, like, what are you avoiding within yourself that you can't even accept clear physical limitations, right? See, we all do this. It's not to judge him. We all do this. We all do this in our own ways, whether literally like he's doing it or how we posture ourselves when we're talking with difficult family members or situations or grief that we're carrying, whatever it is. We all do this, right? So silence and coming to stillness are about calming us. Calming our ordinary preoccupations with thoughts and sensations and emotions and the event stream of the day, right? We live constantly in what Carl Rogers calls the psychophysiological flow of experiences. Carl Rogers was a therapist who looked at what it meant to be an empathetic presence with people and also within ourselves. So how do we help ourselves get present to our own flow of experiences. We come to calmness through stillness and breathing. We make our bodies our partners again to help us step back from the ordinary preoccupations of our thoughts and sensations and emotions and the event stream of the day. And really, when you think about this, it's cliche, but don't forget Jesus, right? Like the master Jesus, right? He often in the Jesus story retreated to quiet places or empty spaces, the scriptures tell us. Well, what is that? Well, that's a metaphor for the desert. In Jesus's full humanity, he goes there, he comes to stillness, to quiet places, and that's where he accessed this resource and practice that opens us all up to God's divine presence. He took the path of his humanity, right? We don't have to fear our ordinary preoccupation with thoughts, sensations, emotions, and the event flow of the day. We don't have to fear it, right? But stillness helps us move into it, right? Mindfully, with kind awareness and with compassion. Just like Jesus, he took the path of his humanity. He took the path of his humanity with his thoughts and his sensations, his emotions, his event flow, his psychophysiological flow of experiences. He took the path of his humanity that also then helped manifested his deep connection to his full divinity, right? So he went to the quiet places. I don't know if anybody's picking up what I'm putting down here, but this is good stuff. Jesus went to these quiet places. Jesus calmed himself, right? And so when you think about those empty places, the desert, how that was also a place in the Jesus story, that's the place where Jesus goes when he is tempted. At the beginning of all the Jesus stories, right? He goes out to the desert and it says the devil tempted him, right? I mean, this is a great source of hope for me. I hope it's a great source of hope for you too, for the forgiveness journey. Listen, this is the reason why. Jesus went to the desert. At the start of the Gospel of Mark, he's tempted by the devil. So he comes face to face with dark spiritual forces, right? It says that he's threatened by wild animals while he's there. And then he returns back into his life, right? He returns back into his event stream of his days, right? But he does it in the power of this spirit that is within him and is his. And he comes back from that place, that dark, empty, quiet place, the desert of struggle and threat. He comes back preaching. What is that? Proclaiming life-giving truth and performing miracles for people. Right? So, but that same place is what the Gospels tell us that Jesus then regularly goes back to. He goes to the quiet, empty places. That's the desert. And somehow from that place where there was struggle and pain, Jesus draws strength from that place that had been a place that was full of threat and struggle. Right? Don't miss this. Don't miss this. This journey that Jesus goes into, this practice that Jesus goes into, coming to stillness, this practice, this journey transforms what was a place of hostility, what was a place where the power of wounding and hurt and sorrow is filled. It transforms that into a place that bears witness to the deep inner strength and healing life that was within Jesus. This is what the forgiveness prayer does. This is what this first part does. It teaches us. It helps us to come to the quiet desert places within. The places where we need forgiveness and release and transformation. Those places that seem so dry and lifeless and you think are never going to get better and are just so full of pain and I can't believe I can't let it go and I can't believe what this person did to me or what this person said to me or whatever it is, right? Whatever you're carrying, whatever you're trying to process through. This forgiveness prayer, this first part, it's helping us walk back into those quiet desert places that seem to be emptied of meaning by pain and hurt and wounds. And there, in that supposed interior wasteland, we find Jesus is already there giving us life as his spirit guides, right? Our forgiveness journey goes to those desert places and can transform our outlook to see what were places, desert places, dry places, places of unimaginable loss and hurt and pain and threat. They now, when we go back, as we use this tool, they get transformed. So now they'll transformed. So those places now are not places of threat, but they are monuments. They become reminders of the strength and the resilience and the healing that you never imagined you even had within you until the disaster uncovered them, until you kept revisiting them in your forgiveness journey, coming to stillness there and becoming open to what the Spirit of God wants to show you about those desert places, about those places of pain, about what the Spirit can do to transform you as you practice this tool and use it as you walk through the journey of life, following this blueprint for living that is forgiveness. Do you see it? Do you get it? Do you get it? This is what the forgiveness prayer does for us as we practice it over and over. And this first part of coming to stillness helps us reframe that desert place of pain that you're looking to heal as a place that is full of potential courage. It is full of potential. It's full of courage. It's full of healing. It's full of coming to a new awareness of your own resilience and your own strength that the Spirit of God has already put within you. See? It's transformation all the way down and all the way through. See? The first part of this prayer is about silence that helps us to calm our self-reflective mechanisms so that we can start to see the strength that is there within us, that we have the power within us to walk through this journey and to let forgiveness unfold fearlessly. This is why I call breathing and coming to stillness our most basic spiritual practice. And that's why the forgiveness prayer builds on that and focuses on that and leverages that, right? These practices teach us over time to allow the movement of the Spirit within, to allow the divine therapist to unravel and release the stored emotional wounds of a lifetime. So the first part of the forgiveness prayer helps you express your desire for this further encounter. Silence, a body and stillness, these things, when you enter into these things, when you give your consent to silence, when you give your consent to having your body come to stillness, those are invitations to the divine, to the Spirit, and it's saying that we won't resist wherever the Spirit leads. And that's key as we get into the second and third parts of the forgiveness prayer, because we're letting the Spirit guide that process. That's what we've been talking about the last 2 weeks, how it's a process that is led and guided by the Spirit. So there's, I hope you get this, because it's so key, and it's the first step. We talked a lot about mindset in week 1 and the dynamics of our outlook about forgiveness, how we're supposed to approach forgiveness as a process, not a destination, right? It's not a destination. It's a process. It's, something that's unfolding. It's an instrument in our life. It's not a product that we produce, right? This is where the rubber starts to hit the road with the forgiveness prayer, because it makes us put that mindset and that understanding into practice, right? Because a lot of us can get stuck and go, yeah, I know that up here. But the practice helps us operationalize it. The practice of the forgiveness prayer helps us actually put our money where our mouth is, right? Where it's not just talk. It's not just information, but now it is us getting involved in the transformation. Right? See, there's a healed, listen. There's anything that you get from this session, I want you to not forget this. This is the whole ball game for you today. There's a healed version of you. There's a healed version of you that is waiting and wanting to emerge. There's a healed version of you that is waiting and wanting to emerge. It's the version of a whole humanity that was created. And when God made humankind in God's image, and said, we are very good. It's that version. It's for you. It's for the people you know who are hurting, who need this forgiveness journey. It's even for the person who hurt you. There is a healed version of each of us waiting and wanting to emerge, consistent with God's eternal vision and eternal blessing spoken over us, that we are very good. We are treasured and very good. And that version is waiting and wanting to emerge, and it will. See, that very good goodness, listen, is the first word that was ever spoken over humanity and over you in ages long past. It's not the wound. That was not the first word spoken over you, and that is not the last word spoken over you. It's not the baggage. It's not, you say, Nathan, I got a whole truck wagon, like I got a truck ton of a wagon of souvenirs, if you want to call them those, right? But that is not the word that has been spoken over you. That's not the first word spoken over you, and that is not the last word spoken over you. Not the wounding that you've received, not the wounding that you've done, not the losses, not the disappointments that have hardened over in your heart and soul, or between you and people that you wish you could connect with, but it seems like you can't anymore. Those things are not the first words spoken over you. They're not the last words spoken over you. The very goodness that God has spoken over all of us is the first word spoken over us. In ages long past, it is a word for you, not just generally. It is a word for each one of us. And so forgiveness as it unfolds, as we learn this practice and we take up this practice of the forgiveness prayer, forgiveness as it unfolds takes us closer and closer and closer and closer to that very goodness that you are, as the infinitely precious instantiation of the image of God that you see in the mirror every day. Even if you don't believe it right now, even if you're weighed down by what you're trying to work through and release on this journey, forgiveness, this journey will always, as it unfolds, take you closer and closer to the very, very goodness that you are. And you are an infinitely precious instantiation of the image of God. That's what you see in the mirror. That's what goes by your name. And that's my good news today. That's my gospel for you today, as we talk about this first part of the forgiveness prayer journey. Amen. I love you, Spiritual Direction and Soul Care. You guys are amazing. I'm so thankful for this community and the wisdom in it. If you're watching with us today, thanks so much. And if you're watching on the replay, can't tell you how grateful I am that you're coming along and journeying with us. Everyone go to the Facebook page and download that workbook so that you can get the full forgiveness prayer tool. It's critical for this journey. It's the main instrument that we're going to be using on it. It is the insanely practical tool that we're giving you as we work through this. We just talked about the first section of it. In a couple weeks, we'll go back to it, practice it daily, learn it daily, and we'll unpack different sections of it over the next few weeks, just like we did today, talking about this first part where we work really hard at opening ourselves and giving consent to stillness and awareness of our bodies. Stillness and our bodies in this first section, and not being afraid. Give yourself permission to give as much time to stillness and breathing in this practice as you do to walking through the flow of the practice. It is such an easy instrument to follow. It's scripted right out and you go right through it. Practice it every day. Let me know how it's going. Tell me, send us messages on Messenger or put comments here in the video or on the Facebook wall and start conversation. Let people know how you're doing and what you're thinking of this journey. And join us, like I said, June 23rd for our second deeper discussion. And we'll look at weeks 3 this week and week 4 in the workbook, going deeper on our forgiveness journey. Love you guys so much and have a great rest of the week. You are amazing. And don't forget, forgiveness will take you closer and closer to the very, very, very goodness that you are, that you see in the mirror this week. Don't forget that. that is the truth. I hope you believe it and receive it today. Love you guys so much. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you.